How's it going, Wildcats? As you can see, I'm not in my typical attire and we're not in the studio. Today, we are here in San Diego, California, doing our week sports show called UATV Presents the COSTAL Tip-Off. We're in San Diego, California. We are here for the first matchup of the Arizona Wildcats in the March Madness tournament. All right, everyone. Well, it is Thursday, March 19th, which means the Arizona Wildcats are going to be competing tomorrow against Long Island University. And today at the Viejas Arena, there was interviews with coaches, players, and their first opportunity to have an open practice so fans and viewers can watch and see what can come in this upcoming matchup. Student reporters Elias Bonilla and Alex Kastner are back in Tucson and have more on this breakdown and matchup.
Welcome everyone into Arizona versus Long Island University. It's the round of 64 and the season has come down to this. Arizona's near perfect season. It's finally here and we have the opportunity to not just take on, but hopefully take down a really interesting opponent in the Long Island University Sharks. I'm Elias Bonilla, joined with me, one of the best, Alex Kastner, as we break down this interesting matchup. Alex, the University of Arizona, we've seen it all season. This is one of the best schools in the country, one of the best defenses. They have a great rotation versus surprisingly a really interesting Long Island University. They were one of the first schools to lock in their spot, which is a little interesting considering they're 16. What are we in for in this matchup?
You know, Elias, there's obviously a lot going for Arizona. They're the 1 seed, Long Island's the 16 seed, but it's not like we haven't seen this before. We saw a couple of years ago with Purdue and Fairleigh Dickinson. Purdue had a beast that was Zach Edey, and they lost to one of the smallest teams in the tournament. I think Arizona definitely has a big advantage. They've been battle tested with their schedule. They've had, I think, 11 or 12 ranked wins, which is the most in a while for any school. So I think they're very battle tested, but anything can happen. I think Long Island is an electric team. They're on the come up from the NEC conference. Their fans are very passionate. I don't know if you've seen the fins up. It's hilarious, man. But I think that Arizona should be able to hold on to this, but there are some factors that Long Island could upset Arizona with.
Well, it's a really interesting matchup because, as you mentioned, Long Island University for a mid-major school, this is almost lower than a mid-major school. Nobody's talking about the NEC, let's be honest, but Long Island has passionate fans. It's a surprisingly interesting team. I look at Rod Strickland. He is bringing this team, to a surprising appearance. This is their first appearance in 8 years.
Oh, jinx.
It's deserved, and they were locked in, even if they didn't win that matchup against Mercyhurst, and they still did. They still did 79-70, and they have great players too. A surprisingly interesting lineup: Malachi Davis, Greg Gordon, Jamal Fuller. They combined 58 points in that 79-70 victory over Mercyhurst. This is a great rotation, but Arizona, they have one of the deepest rosters. It's an 8-man rotation, 118th in bench points, which doesn't sound like a lot, but consider this: most of these top schools are in the 200 to 300s in bench points. They're putting up 23.5 points average per game in bench points. That's really solid.
That's a lot. A lot of these top schools are very top star heavy, and Arizona has a bunch of stars with Braden Burries, Koa Pete, Jaden Bradley. But when you look at a school like Duke, where it's kind of just Cam Boozer, Isaiah Evans in the starting lineup that puts in a lot of the production, it shows that Arizona just has such a deep roster, and that no matter what happens to a certain player, like when Koa Pete was out with injury, Dwayne Aristotle was out with injury or sickness, they bounce back even with those struggles.
For sure. And I think too, they're cleaning up a lot of this stuff. Look at their losses. Why did they lose? They got absolutely dominated defensively. They packed their opponents packed the paint. They had to rely on the three. Well, they've improved their 3-point shooting. This is a really great team, and their throwing percentage is also phenomenal. 13 out of D1 schools, 50.24%. That's a great average, and they're putting up the 14th most points averaging per game. Arizona has fixed their issues. Del Orso has come out in the most perfect part of the season. Koa Pete's finally starting to become more consistent. I know he had a few rough games there, but this is a really nice fleshed out rotation.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously the biggest struggle that everyone talks about is the 3-pointers. But Arizona is just a team that will body you. They average 42 rebounds a game, which
It's
is
super physical.
7 more a game than Long Island. And we saw in games like Colorado, it was just an out rebounding mess. Same with Oklahoma State. I mean, Arizona is just very physical down low with players like Tobe Awaka, Koa Pete, even the guards like Jaden Bradley and Braden Burries can get very physical down low.
Yeah, and those rebounds, second best per game. Unbelievable. It looks to be in Arizona. Well, let's be honest. I mean, Arizona has, a great opportunity to not just dominate Long Island, but, become stable. They should hopefully win this.
Hopefully. I think a difference between what would happen in this matchup and what happened with the Purdue Fairleigh Dickinson matchup is Fairleigh Dickinson was able to just target and just repeatedly beat on Zach Edey. I think Arizona is too deep of a team for where if one person like Koa Pete or something is getting beat on, they have 4 other players who they know can consistently score.
Absolutely. Well, Arizona will play Friday morning, and they'll play, assuming they win their matchup against Long Island, they'll play the winner of Villanova and Utah State, and that matchup will happen Sunday. To break down the rest of the west side of the bracket, we go back to our UATV team in San Diego.
That was some great insight by those reporters back in Tucson. And I agree. I definitely see Arizona being heavily favored, having a wide margin of victory. But it is March after all. And we've seen today that no one is for certain guaranteed a spot moving on into the next round. Going into tomorrow's matchup, we had an opportunity to attend today's press conference where Coach Tommy Lloyd was asked a question about what progress he's seen from his team starting from the month of November till now heading into the competition.
Wow, a lot. We obviously got off to a good start this season, but the one thing I'll give this team credit for, I really feel like it's improved over the course of the season. And it could be young players just gaining experience. It could be teammates just learning how to play together. But I mean, I've seen a lot of growth from this group from day one, and honestly, I've seen a lot of growth from this team in the last couple of weeks. And one of the things we've tried to strive for is just to improve week by week. And that could be a number of ways. That could be in your base defense. That could be adding something here and there. So a growth mindset is something that we really value, and I think these guys have exemplified that all season.
It is March after all, and we've seen some upsets and some very close matches even today. And I think now would be a great opportunity to take a wider look around the other games that have been going on today. With that, we're going to introduce Colin Morgan. He's our GM of the show, and you're going to break it down with me today. Colin, thank you so much for being on the show. How have you been?
Thank you for having me, Jacob. I'm glad to be out here in sunny San Diego, California.
I mean, yeah, what could be better than this? I mean, we're not in the studio, and I couldn't imagine ever doing a show out here, but I'm glad that it happened. And
thank you to the amazing people, amazing team that made it happen, So without further ado, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it, because there were 2 games that stuck out to us today as we were covering Arizona at the Viejas Arena. And one of them was that Duke game against Sierra, which Duke is number 1. They are ranked number 1 of the other number ones in the bracket, and they played against number 16 Sierra. And I bring this game up because we are also a number 1 seed. We are also playing a 16 seed tomorrow, and this game could have been one of the hugest upsets, ending in 71-65. Colin, what could you tell us about this game, and why was it so polarizing?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to, in March, being a 1 seed, being a 16 seed, they call it March Madness for a reason. When in March, let there be madness. We've seen plenty of 16 seeds. They come in, they think they're being underrated, undervalued, and they really want to go all out and take down those big name schools like a Duke, for example. Some key takeaways I took away from that game is, obviously Duke showed some vulnerability. I think a lot of people have thought them to be the number 1 team, but a lot of people haven't said they've been the most consistent team. Obviously, they had a loss to North Carolina earlier in the year, but Siena also proved that they could slow the game down and challenge top teams. Unfortunately, now they're out the rest of the tournament. But I think you could definitely see some similarity throughout the rest of the bracket. We've kind of already saw some of that earlier today as well. And I'm sure you'll see that as we go forward.
Yeah, I mean, Siena came out hot. I mean, for a lot of the game, up until the very end, they were actually leading. Heading into halftime, they were leading, and they continued to have that dominance. So what would you think it was? Was it their defense today? Was it their offense? What just seemed to go well for Siena?
I think everything went well for them, and I think at the end, the reason they ended up losing was the reality that they didn't sub the entire game. that's great and all when you're playing competition closer to you, but when you're playing a team like Duke that can rotate 5 guys if they really want to, you need to be able to sub players, even if it means sacrificing some scoring and defense. And you look at that second half, they went 5 minutes without scoring a single point. And ultimately, that was their detriment. I mean, if they'd scored 2-3 points, it could have easily gone their way. But unfortunately, in a game like that, everything has to go right your way. And it did the first half, but Duke is Duke for a reason. They have Cameron Boozer, who's arguably the best player in the country. He's going to be a top pick in the NBA draft. So when you have players like that, they're not going to be dormant the entire game. They're going to come out strong. And for a lot of these 16 seeds and lower seeds, it's about building enough buffer so that when Duke or any of these other big name teams go on a run, you have just enough to get through to the very end.
And I have 2 questions that like really just came out from this. Like when I hear of Sienna, it kind of Sierra, excuse me. It kind of reminds me of that McNeese team from last year. And like, do you see this as being like a team that can come back maybe next year and with the hype that they had to maybe take down the best team ranked #1 in the country? Do you think they could possibly build upon this and make it further next year?
I mean, I definitely think it's positive for their program. I don't know if it's something they can necessarily build on in terms of a lot of things have to go right for these small name schools. You got to have senior heavy teams because you got to have experience. Usually it's a lot of transfer kids because you want kids from all over the country who have maybe been at top programs and haven't gotten playing time. They come to a smaller program. But there's so much that has to go right in order to get in this position to even make the tournament because they only get one bid. And then you got to win the game. So I think it's a positive moment for the school from top to bottom. I'm sure the students and everyone will remember this season and even this game, even though it wasn't the outcome they were expecting. But I don't think it's necessarily something they're going to be able to build upon and be again back here next year.
And with Duke, you know, they're moving on, but by a slim margin of victory. Is this a game where they can brush off like, hey, we've been battle tested, you know, we may have came out of that battle like more scars than we wanted to, but we're going to come back knowing that we can, when pressed with, you know, up their backs against the wall, that they could actually recover?
I mean, yeah, I think Duke's going to recover. I mean, they're one of the best teams and one of the best programs in college basketball for a reason. They have a ton of talent. I think for March Madness, the reason it's so special is that if you have one off day, it could be the end of your entire season. So I don't think Duke is necessarily on the chopping block per se. I mean, they have a very hard bracket. So seeing a game like this early take this much effort is a little concerning. But I think when you look at it, when you look at consistency, a lot of these top teams, when they do get in these close games, they tend to play down to their opponent. Whereas I feel when you're going to be playing a top team like a Kansas or a UConn, possibly for Duke, they're probably going to play up to or have the other team play up to their standards. So I'm not too worried about Duke. I think they'll get it back together. However, this was definitely not an encouraging start to March Madness.
No, it wasn't. It was too close, honestly, for
Definitely
being
too
that how
close.
big Duke was. But I mean, the game did end 71-65, like I said, but that could have been a bracket buster right then and there.
Oh, yeah,
like,
that would have locked
I don't know
up
how many brackets would have saw that Sierra would have beat Duke, but the other game I want to talk about was one that arguably, like after this game happened, definitely people didn't see happening. And for the people that did, they clearly knew something, or they just had high hopes, or
They had
they
some
gone
ball
to
knowledge for
they gone
sure.
to the school or ball knowledge, right? And that was High Point University. They were the 12th ranked in their conference in their bracket, and they played against Wisconsin, and it was a nail biter, 83-82. Eventually, High Point University taking the lead. What were your thoughts on High Point? Did you see them? I mean, did you at all ever think about them heading into the March Madness in their regular season?
No, I mean, you go Wisconsin. They've historically had some really good teams. I think this year they were really good. I wouldn't say I thought they were a little overrated. However, they can shoot the three really, really well. And that's usually a team that can be dangerous, but also fail in March because you can't always live on the three ball. But High Point, I mean, they matched game like, shot for shot. They were aggressive, and they never really allowed Wisconsin to settle into their usual slow-paced style. They kind of forced them to go faster and push some high-paced transition. And at the end of the day, there's always like the rule in March Madness when you're picking out brackets, like you should always pick a 5 seed to lose to a 12 seed.
And why is that?
Just always happens. That's part of the madness. I couldn't even tell you, but I mean, High Point definitely is going to be that Cinderella team, I think, going forward for people. I don't think a lot of people had them going forward, but you know they're going to be taking on Arkansas. That would be another really great game. Arkansas's got a lot of great players. So if they can keep it going, that'd be great for them. However, I think Arkansas has got too much talent to lose to High Point.
Right.
But
And too much of great coaching.
Exactly. John Calipari is a great head coach, but he's also had his struggles in March the last couple of years, hence why he's now at Arkansas, not Kentucky anymore. So, I like High Point's chances. I do think they're going to be this year's Cinderella. I just think you look at the rest of the bracket and the rest of the teams, they're just really not set up in situations that are going to be beneficial to them make a run, like High Point will, I think, in my opinion. But, you want to talk about thriller game, 83-82.
Opening round.
This is what everyone waits for. This is why you make a bracket. This is why you don't put any money on anything, because you're going to probably lose that money. So,
and
game.
Yeah, phenomenal game. I was ecstatic the whole time watching it.
Oh yeah, I was on the edge of my toes.
So but I wanted to make a special note. Shout out High Point. They actually, by beating Wisconsin, that was crucial for us, because that could have been, if Wisconsin moved forward, that could have been a pivotal later round matchup where we would have had a gone against the Badgers. So this actually, if everything goes as planned, everything goes expected, this actually works out in our favor.
Yeah, this could definitely be beneficial. I think for High Point, again, it's kind of one game at a time. You don't know what's going to happen today, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So all you got to do is enjoy your win today and get back into the lab and start watching the tape on Arkansas, because that's your next matchup before you worry about anyone else. Because any team that's looking 5-6 games into the bracket is going to be headed home that next game, because don't take anyone for granted, because there's always going to be that one player that makes their name in March and then becomes an accountant later on. So you never know.
You never know. Well, before we end up wrapping up the show, has there been anything today that stuck out to you? Anything that's been on your mind about what you've seen going on today?
I think today it was just like a reminder that I know there's a lot of last year we had a lot of the 1 seeds essentially make the Final Four. I think a lot of people were wondering if the Cinderella team is dead. I think today, and arguably I think this entire bracket will show, that Cinderella teams are not dead in any means.
They are very much alive.
Exactly. Obviously Miami, Ohio had a great season as well. We'll see how they do. But I think High Point's a great example of that. Even if you look at Siena, they had a great game against Duke as well. They would have been a Cinderella story. McNeese was up against Vanderbilt at one point. So there's a lot of teams that are still making good runs. And I think that the talk about Cinderella teams are dead and it's just going to be the top programs for the transfer portal, NIL, I think that conversation can kind of be put to bed. I think this March Madness, and I think future March Madnesses as well, will prove that point is not true.
Well, Colin, I just want to say thank you so much for coming out on the show.
I appreciate you for having me out.
I had a great time doing it. Maybe even a better time, especially that we were on the beach.
Guys, how could you not love this?
Absolutely. The water's right there. I might even just go jump in there.
I might go take a little dip myself.
You gotta. Weather's perfect.
It's beautiful.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for a more in-depth report of the Wildcat matchup against LIU, and we'll have more latest March Madness matchups to go over around the conference. So with that, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day.